Hey guys, it's Tiff and welcome back to my channel. You already know what today's video is, so I do not need to tell you twice. What is up? I don't know why I always do that. Anyways, I know that I already have one of these videos on my channel and I think it's like 5 months old, but I made that video still kind of towards the beginning of my reading journey. I had just started reading August the year prior, so I hadn't read too many books at that point, and I also didn't have a very good idea of how I rated books at that point. So this is an updated version. Some of the books in that first video are not going to be in this one. Looking back, there is some books that I rated 5 stars that I would no longer rate 5 stars, and some of them have still held up to this day. So we're gonna go through these. I kind of literally lined them up in order from like my least favorite to my most favorite. Obviously they're all 5-star reads, so these are some of my all-time favorite books, but they're in order from my least to my most favorite, ending with my absolute all-time favorite book. So with that being said, let's get right on into it. First book is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. This is a YA fiction. This book follows Eden and it's about how she gets raped by her brother's best friend. So it's about her going through all of her high school career and just how she changes herself from who the girl was that he raped so that she can like not be that person anymore. It's honestly like a very sad story because of obviously what happened and what she goes through because of that, but I really feel like this book was done absolutely incredibly. Amber Smith does a great job of really showing how even the littlest interactions now affect Eden because of this thing that has happened to her. Even as simple as a hug from her mom, she just can't handle. This is a book that I would genuinely recommend to anyone to read of any age. It is such an amazing story and it's something that is a very real thing. This happens to a lot of people and it shouldn't, but it does, and I feel like this book does an incredible job of getting that message across. So that is the first one. Moving on, we have The Lake by Natasha Preston. This is a YA mystery thriller, and let me tell you, going into this book, since it was a YA, I wasn't expecting it to be too crazy. I wasn't really expecting much to happen that would be kind of, I guess, suspenseful or just like crazy. Okay, and let me tell you, it was so far from my expectations. This book is about Esme and Kayla. They went to this summer camp when they were younger and then they did something really bad and they never go back until years later. They go back as camp counselors and then one day they get a message saying the lake never forgets. So the secret that they have literally kept buried for however many years is about to resurface, and so it kind of just follows them through summer camp as their camp counselors, and all these crazy things keep happening and they're trying to figure out who is doing this. And wow, the ending of this book was crazy. I did see some reviews on Goodreads saying that they thought the ending of this was too fast and they just hated the ending of this, but me personally, the ending was so perfect. Like, the ending of this was a masterpiece. I have to agree, yeah, it did kind of pick up really fast, but I think the way she did it was absolutely perfect. I was completely not expecting how this book to end that way. Did that sentence make sense? You know what I'm saying? I didn't expect it to end the way that it did. The literal last sentence of this, I just remember reading it and like being like doing one of those. Like, it was crazy. It shocked me beyond belief. So yeah, really loved this. It was so good. And then moving on, we have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I just remember reading this and being so obsessed with this story. I read this back in January and looking back, I still love it just as much. If you don't know what this book is about, this book is basically about Evelyn Hugo. She was a Hollywood actress in the 50s and left show business in the 80s, and she hires Monique Grant to write her story. And so throughout this book, you're going through and you have little parts of like her and Monique's reactions, but the majority of the book is basically Evelyn telling Monique everything that happened throughout her career and the 7 husbands she had along the way. So there's a section for each of her husbands in chronological order, and there's a plot twist in this book that I was not expecting. Like, it basically tells you in the synopsis that there is some way that Evelyn and Monique's lives kind of intertwine, if that's the word, and you don't know what it is. And when it gets to that part, it completely threw me off because I was not expecting it. I don't know, I don't even remember what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting what it was, and it had me absolutely sobbing. This book was just so good. I loved the writing style of this. I just loved how it really felt like I was just going through her life with her and experiencing everything she experienced. It was so good, and I would highly recommend. As for I would highly recommend all of these, they're all obviously my 5-star reads. Moving on, we have 11 Other Words by Christina Lauren. I remember reading this and genuinely just having the craziest experience reading this. This was actually my very first reading vlog I ever made, so if you want to watch that and see my reactions, I'll have the link below and you can watch it. But I just remember there was certain lines, like I vividly remember there was some line of her describing how he smelled like boy sweat and something else, and I just vividly remember being like, oh my god, like it felt like I got transported back into time when we were in high school, and like I would go with Makai to the gym and he would play basketball, and then there was this one time where he quite literally was dripping sweat and he wiped his forehead. Okay, I don't know why I had to demonstrate, but he wiped his forehead full of sweat on my face. It was disgusting, but it just felt like I was being transported back into those times, and there was just so many instances like that. And also Macy and Elliot's relationship and just everything about this book was just so sweet and wholesome, and I loved it beyond belief. It was so good. If you don't know what this is about, just a quick little rundown. Macy and Elliot, they kind of grew up somewhat living next to each other. They became friends and then they slowly fell in love, and then something happens and they stop speaking to each other for 11 years. And then 11 years later, they run into each other again, and they're both in relationships, but they start becoming friends again. And obviously there's some unresolved feelings and they still kind of like each other, but he has a girlfriend and she's engaged. And so it's like this whole ordeal, but it is such an amazing story. There was like some parts in this that ripped my heart out and I was absolutely sobbing. But overall, this is such a good story. I feel like this is a lot of people's 5-star reads. This book genuinely is just so good. It's childhood friends, lovers, second chance, and chef's kiss, literally so good. And moving on, we have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. If you know me, you know I am a Harry Potter girly, okay? I have not read all of the books, and don't come for me for that because I am planning on reading the entire rest of the series this fall. Just throwing that out there, but I love Harry Potter. I am a Harry Potter fanatic. I will be even more, I'm sure, once I read all the books, but I absolutely love the movies, and this book was just so good because obviously, like I already said, I love the movies, but this gives you so much more. And like the whole, like a few chapters at the beginning is like going into Harry's life with living with his, you know, aunt and uncle and just kind of their life. And I loved getting all this extra detail. Like there's obviously going to be a lot of things that they can't put in movies because it's like, that's too much. It would just be too long, but I just loved how much extra detail this went into, and I just really love this book, and I'm sure I'm gonna love the rest of them. The third movie is my favorite, The Prisoner of Azkaban, so I cannot wait to read that book because I'm sure it's only gonna make me love that one even more because Sirius is like literally my favorite character. Okay, I love Sirius. Like if you're a Harry Potter stan, please let me know down below who your favorite character is. I don't know if it's unpopular for me to say Sirius is my favorite, but he is top tier for me. Okay, moving along, we have Twisted Hate by Anna Hong. Oh my god, let me say, going into this book, I did not think I was gonna like it because it was about Josh and Jules, and in Twisted Love and in Twisted Games, the little glimpses I got of them, I didn't think I was gonna like them together. I didn't really like either of them individually in the other ones, so I didn't think I would like this book because it's about them. But oh my god, y'all, I loved it so much. Josh is literally my favorite of the 4 Twisted men. Oh my god, I am obsessed with him. I feel like that is, I don't feel like, I know that's such an unpopular opinion that he's my favorite, but I literally love him so much. There's just certain things he does for her in this book that just warmed my heart and literally made me cry because it was so sweet. I just love this book so much. I have a special place in my heart for this. This one is like an enemies to lovers, best friends, brother trope. If you haven't read the Twisted series yet, this is your sign to read it because I genuinely loved the entire series. It was so good. It was so good. Moving on, we have The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. This is technically the second to Mr. Wrong Number, and let me tell you, I loved this one so much. It was so cute. This is basically about Hallie and Jack, and they honestly meet, and Jack is in a relationship, but Hallie is somehow involved in his breakup, and they end up having a one-night stand, and then they both are getting on dating apps to try to find the one, and they end up coming across each other's profiles and messaging just about how they're not interested in each other, and then they end up making a little wager to see who will meet the one first, and there's a little bit of fake dating that goes into this book, and I just loved this. I loved how Lynn Painter did the fake dating in this book. I love just how their relationship develops from being strangers, having this one night stand, becoming friends that are like literally racing to see who will meet the one first, and then falling in love with each other. It was the sweetest thing. I literally loved it so much, genuinely so much. I remember reading this and being so giddy and like just kicking my feet and just my feelings being all over the place because I was so obsessed with it. It's so good. This book really did it for me, let me tell you. It really did. And moving on, another one by Lynn Painter. We have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Duh, I just said that. This I actually read because Haley Pham told me to. Literally, she told me to for a video, so I read it. And when I tell you, I loved it so much. This book, again, fake dating. If y'all know me, you know fake dating is like my favorite trope. I just love watching two people fake date and then catch feelings for each other, but feel like they can't tell the other person because they're just faking it. Like, I don't know, something about that just really hits me so good. I have loved fake dating ever since I was little though. Like, I was watching a Hallmark Christmas movie the other day. Don't come for me, I know it's August, but I have one of my favorite ones on DVD and I was watching it and I realized, oh my god, there is a fake dating trope in this movie. Like, that is the whole premise of this movie, is they're fake dating. And I was like, wow, my love for fake dating runs really, really deep, okay? It runs really, really deep. But this is just such a sweet story. It's about Liz and Wes. They're kind of like enemies, not really enemies because they're in high school and it's a YA book, but they're kind of enemies. They don't like each other. Wes always used to tease her, pick on her, play pranks on her when they were little, but he ends up agreeing to kind of like fake date her so that she can convince the guy that she's in love with to ask her to prom. It's just literally such a good book. Like, the hype that Haley Pham gave this book is 100% understandable, worth it. It deserves every single little bit of hype that it gets because it was amazing. Definitely an amazing book, and if you haven't read it, you totally should. Moving on, we have another fake dating book, which is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. This is the second to The Worst Best Man, and let me tell you, I love both of them, but I love this one the most. This, oh my god, was so good. This is the first fake dating book I ever read, and up until recently, it was my all-time favorite book, okay? I love this. I want to reread it soon. It's so good. It's basically about Sloane and Dean. Dean is literally about to get married, and Sloane is helping her cousin Lena, who is the girl from book one, The Worst Best Man, helping her with the wedding arrangements, and she ends up overhearing something, crashing the wedding, and literally breaking up Dean and who was supposed to be his wife. And then Dean ends up lying to his boss at work that he ended up falling in love with the girl who crashed his wedding. And so she agrees and they start fake dating, and wow, this book is so good. It will always have a special place in my heart because genuinely I love it so much. I love Dean and Sloane. The ending of this book is literally one of my all-time favorite endings of any book. Like, the way this ends is like, it's so cheesy almost, to where it's like you feel like you've seen this happen in a Hallmark movie, but in the absolute best way possible. It was adorable, it was so sweet, it was so wholesome, and it was like, yes, you really love her, don't you? Like, you love her. Oh my god. I cannot. I literally love it so much. I just want to re-experience everything I read in this because genuinely I just loved it that much. Moving on, we have Twisted Games, the second in the Twisted series. I know I said Josh is my favorite of the men, and he 100% is, but this is my favorite book, and Reese is like, he is almost tied with Josh, okay? I love him, but Bridget is my favorite of the Twisted girls. I love her. She is a princess, and she does not give a if she still has an attitude. She will tell you how it is. Her energy and her vibe is just everything. And ever since I was younger, I loved just princess movies and stuff. Like, The Princess Diaries is my favorite movie ever. So this really did it for me. This is about Reese and Bridget. Reese is her bodyguard. So we have the bodyguard trope, and it is so good. It is excellent. It is done perfectly. I love how we get so much of their life in this book because it doesn't just go through a couple months. Like, this is giving you years of their life, but in the best way possible. I annotated this book a lot. This is only the second ever book I ever annotated, and I annotated the crap out of this because there was just so much that I felt I needed to to underline and remember. But yeah, I just love this book so much. I feel like I could sit here and talk about this book for so long. Moving on. This is one of my all-time favorite book couples. I love them. And that is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. We have yet another fake dating book. We have a lot of fake dating in these 5-star reads. Again, one of my faves. So, are we surprised? No. Olive and Adam are genuinely one of my favorite book couples ever. This was so sweet, so wholesome. This is very, very minimal spice. There is literally like one sex scene in this, and I thoroughly enjoyed that because it made everything seem 10 times more wholesome, and this just hit the spot. It was so good. Oh my god. Oh my god. Basically, this book is about, again, Adam and Olive. Olive lies to her best friend saying that she is out on a date, but really she's just at the lab, and her friend shows up to the lab when she's supposed to be on a date. So she kisses the first guy she sees, which just so happens to be Adam, which also just happens to be a professor at their school. Not her professor, let me put that out there, but a professor. And he also has the reputation of being the biggest asshole on campus. And let me tell you, oh my god, I could just literally sit here and tell you how good this book is for like 17 hours, okay? Do you have 17 hours to just sit and literally hear me say over and over again, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good? Because if so, we'll do that, but if not, which we don't, I just loved their interactions, the banter. I loved them as just individuals, but I loved them together so much. Something about how they just came together and their love for each other was just so sweet. Again, so wholesome, and I genuinely loved it so much. Like, loved it beyond belief. If you want a he falls first and he falls harder type of book, this is for you, because this man not only fell first, but he fell hard as hell. And he is such a simp for her, and I love it. I love it. Moving on, we have a book that I read on my Kindle, and oh my god, this is the first really ever fantasy book I read aside from the first Harry Potter book. I literally got it for free on my Kindle, but it's normally only $1.99, and it is now one of my all-time favorite books. I literally forced my sister to read it, and she said it was one of the best books she's ever read. It is gonna be a trilogy, and I cannot wait for the rest of them to come out because I need more, because the way it ended was so just suspenseful, and it's like, are you kidding me? You ended it like that? Anyways, the book is Heavy as the Crown by Lindsay J. Holy moly, when I tell you that this book was so good, it's so good. It's basically about two modern teens who are at a party and randomly somehow end up falling into a medieval realm. Okay, how did we do this? How did we get here? That's what they're thinking. But not only that, they get separated and are on opposite sides of a centuries-long war. So you follow Shay and what side of the war she's on, and you get to know who she's with and kind of get an idea of like, are these the bad guys? Are they good? And then you follow her best friend Olin, is how I think you say it, or Ollie, and you see what side of the war he's on and if they're good or if they're bad, and just kind of his experience with them. And throughout this book, they're trying to find their way back to each other so that they can figure out how to get home. And this book was, I kid you not, from the first page, I was sucked in. I was just so captivated by her writing and what she was saying, and the whole book, I mean, I read this book in less than 24 hours. This whole book was just amazing. It's not boring for a single second. It's just constantly stuff is happening, and it is just so good. It's such a good book if you want like a read that A, is fantasy. If you're not a fantasy person, I think this book could really get you into fantasy because it got me into fantasy. If you want a good fast-paced read, this is for you. It's so good, and again, the way it ended, it was amazingly done. Like, this book is a masterpiece, but it's also, the ending is horrible in the sense that you're like, what? Like, what is gonna happen? How is this gonna end? It's like unfinished business, to be honest. Like, it's just so unfinished, and it's like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Oh my god. It's so good. Please read it. Again, it was $1.99 on Kindle. It is so inexpensive, and it is so good. It is so worth it. This is something I am 100% going to be buying the physical copy of because I loved it that much. It was so good. Okay, we are down to the wire. These are the last two books, my top two favorite books that I have ever read. First, we have Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This book is absolutely incredible. Let me start by saying I have not finished this series yet, but I finally have the last 3 in the series, and the second one is on my TBR for this month, so I will be finishing them ASAP. This book is so good. This book is about Magnolia and BJ, and when I tell you this book is Gossip Girl vibes in a book, it is 100%. That's how I always heard people describing it before I read it, and reading it, that is the vibes I got 100% through and through. Gossip Girl, but in the UK, and obviously different characters, and it is so good. Just think rich kids, think they can do whatever they want. Drugs, drinking, partying, toxic relationships is like the main preface of this book. So keep that in mind, that this book literally follows a very, very toxic relationship. I love this universe. I cannot wait to continue this series, because when I tell y'all I love this, there's not enough words to describe how much I love this. I literally can't even describe to you how much I love this. There's just so much about this that is amazing. I love the universe. I love Jessa Hastings' writing style. I just love the storyline. Every single character you come into contact with in this book, I just find myself, oh my god, I like literally want to know more about you, because they're just all, I feel like they're low-key just all kind of really complex, and I literally love it so much. If you haven't read this, please read it. It's so good. I'm literally at a loss for words on how to talk about this book right now. That's where I'm at. And finally, the last book, the final book, my all-time favorite book that I have ever read. And if you aren't new to my channel, you should probably already know what it is, but we have By a Thread by Lucy Score. Why did I just get chills? I'm getting emotional. I just love this book with everything in me wholeheartedly. It's grumpy sunshine, workplace romance. We have Dominic and Allie, and I read this in the Booktubers Choose My Reads for a Week video. Sarah picked this book for me, and if you watched that video, and if you didn't and you want to watch it to see what I'm talking about, at the end of this, I was literally crying, I want to say, for probably 20 to 30 minutes, just straight crying throughout the whole ending of this book. The way this book ends is the sweetest thing ever. This is a really big book. This has over 500 pages, and so it was very intimidating to me going into, because this was the first really long book that I read. Like, I'm talking first book over 500 pages that I had read, and so it was a little intimidating, but I, from the very start of this book, was just so obsessed with the story and the characters. I love Lucy Score's writing in this. I just loved going through this book and learning about these characters and what makes them them, and what in their past made them turn out the way they are. And also, there's just things Dominic does for Allie throughout this book that she has no idea he does for her, and it's just so sweet, because it's like he also doesn't really realize why he's doing it, and it's just so sweet. It's so wholesome. I read this like 3 months ago, I want to say, and I still think about this almost every day. I still am constantly just like thinking, man, that was a good book. I loved that book. I loved the story. I constantly am thinking about the end of this book. Like, it was just so good, and I could sit here and tell you how good it was for so long, but I'm not gonna do that, especially because my battery is now blinking at me. So that's my all-time favorite book. If you're gonna read any book in this video, my top 3 books that I would tell you to read is By a Thread by Lucy Score, Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, and Heavy as the Crown by Lindsay J. They are amazing. All of these books are, but if you're gonna read any, those are my top 3 that I would tell you to read right now, ASAP. With that being said, again, my camera battery is flashing at me, so I love you guys so much, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already, because we have a lot of fun over here, and we want you to join the fun. With that being said, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for getting me to 6K, because that was my goal for the end of August, and I hit that on the 9th, and I'm just so in awe and shocked by your guys' love and support. So thank you guys so much. You're making little Tiffy's dreams come true every single day. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. My battery's gonna die. I need to charge both of them, because we're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship, zooming through the sky, little Einsteins. Oh my gosh, y'all, they keep falling. Okay, I think that there's gotta be a good one in there somewhere. Okay, now what order do I want to talk about these in? I think we're gonna talk about my absolute favorite book last, second favorite book last. Okay, I'm arranging them in the order I want to talk about them. Let's take a little sip of water real quick. How this book Hollywood. Who? Seriously? Rated an R&R 2. What did I just say?